it jogs in. If we figured, if we frame that, instead of cutting studs to get a door in or move that whole wall,
Whatever.
it'd be a lot easier than,
Sounds cheap.
Was that last year?
Okay, I think it's 7 o'clock, so I'll call the meeting to order. One regular member is absent. Someone wanna make a motion that Steve sit in the place of so moved? Wait a second. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Steve Burrick will be in place of Ted Wilson this evening. Okay, approve minutes of March 18, 2015 meetings. We have 2 meetings on March 18th to approve the minutes for, and then March 23rd, so. Looking for a motion on the minutes, or?
Motion on the minutes?
Yes.
So moved.
You moved for all 3 or for,
All three.
okay, motion to change slate to approve all 3 minutes. Do I hear a second to that?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all 3 minutes are approved. Got that? Okay. All right, I know we have several groups here to make presentations this evening. I don't know what, to go first, maybe. Yeah, I know, but, sure, yeah.
Library first.
You wanna do in the order here? I don't see, Chris was here. Where did he go?
He's here.
Oh, back there. Okay, Chris, why don't you come forward and
I'll be quick. As I mentioned at the public hearing about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I'll go through the budget line by line, but there's basically 2 things I'm looking to get out of this budget. I'm looking to replace a position that was cut in last year's fiscal budget, because we had so many referenda that it just kept getting cut and cut and cut, so the whole position was lost. But I'll go through them line by line. Salaries, part-time. There is I'm requesting $111,878. It's a 19% increase because that's where the position is. Most of that $18,000, $15,689 is for a part-time library assistant. Salaries full-time is going up 2.5% per contract. FICA is going up 7.79%. That was based on the salary. Group health and life is going up 2.5%. Does anyone want me to go over what the numbers are too, what it is? Let's start over. Part-time salaries, I'm requesting $111,878. And that, as I said, was to replace the position. Full-time salaries is $207,996. That's a 2.5% increase. FICA is $24,645. That's a 7.7% increase. Group health and life insurance is $83,758. That's a 2.5% increase. Retirement is $24,177. That's a 1.9% increase. Longevity is $22.85. That's a 2.74% increase. Postage, now, all those up from salary to longevity are salary lines. Postage, I'm not increasing, I'm leaving at $500. Maintenance, as I said at the public hearing, I'm trying to add a supplemental cleaning service for the library. So I increased it from $6,000 last year, maintenance, to $10,000. And that's a $4,000 increase. I asked for that last year, it was removed last year because of all the referenda, so I'm just putting it back in again. Continuing ed is 1,000, actually that was reduced in last year's budget, and I'm keeping the reduction.
I'm working every day.
Water is the same as it was last year, $560, that's a fixed cost. Telephone is the same, that's a fixed cost.
What time does your meeting run?
Office and library supplies, that was cut $1,800 last year, and I'm keeping the cut, I'm not asking for an increase. Mileage, 2,578 was cut last year, and I'm keeping the cut. And the books, that's a direct benefit to the residents, so I'm leaving it at $32,000. Capital equipment was cut last year. I'm adding $650 back in. In past years, we've used capital equipment to like reupholster a couch or do some other little thing to the building, or to a piece of furniture or a shelving, so I'm asking for that back in. Programs, I'm leaving at $1,800. The total budget I'm requesting for 2015-2016 is $531,171, and that represents a 6.4% increase. But the increase is so big is because I'm trying to get that position back. And if you look at previous years, well, does anyone have any questions for me?
Did you give us a handout of your, for your year's use, how much books and such, do you have a?
Yes, I have a handout. I have one.
Maybe get it to Lori, she can give us a copy later on.
Let me find it. Oh, here it is. Oh wait, I have more than that. I have a couple.
Yeah, if you want to put it down.
Yeah, it's the, where it's at, the highlights of the year, that's the usage. Yep.
Maybe some of the public would like to hear some of those numbers this evening, if you could, just
Sure.
briefly.
I'd like to point out too that usage has not gone down at all. In fact, it's up, circulation is up this year over last year. But in the highlights of fiscal year 2013, 2014, 272 programs were offered, 5,099 patrons attended programs, 4,000 reference questions were answered, and that's computer help questions too, is included in that. 5,136 staff or residents had cards, had library cards. We had 7,639 internet sessions. People come in and use our internet computers. 74,000 persons entered the building. That's for meetings and to use the library, and it's for any reason to come into the building. We had 56,283 items in the collection, and 83,263 items were checked out.
What do you receive for donations, and what are those donations used for? And are they incorporated into the budget? I guess that's the next question.
Donations are not incorporated into the budget. They are used, we've had a number of, we always get small donations. Recently we've had a few donations for people that have passed away, staff or residents. We had one person that passed away who they named the library as a place to make memorial donations. And that person, we received $1,400. And there was another family who received $400. And then prior to that, there was a few other small requests like that where we made $600, and the other one was like $200 or $300. And with the $1,400, the family that we got $1,400 for, they specifically requested that we buy large print books or audiobooks, well, specifically audiobooks, books on CD. Because her mother was blind and she used our audiobooks a great deal, and she really enjoyed and was grateful that we had the audiobooks. So that's what we're gonna use that money for. But it is not in the budget that I presented.
What is your portfolio produce for the library now?
It's last year was $48,000, the portfolio, and it's used to pay for Bibliomation, which is our library consortium. It pays for all of our computer equipment. It pays for all of our electronic databases. And it pays for one copier lease, landscaping. We get mulch in the springtime. And we got a real good deal on that last year. What else does it pay for? The newsletter that you get the reminder, but most of it is for Bibliomation and computer/database uses.
I don't understand what you're talking about.
They have a investment, I don't know what the amount is,
It's like a trust.
trust fund
Yeah.
that produces every year. They can spend the interest up, that's all.
Yep.
So
And-
it produce 48,000 in interest?
Yes,
There's
it
a
does.
good chunk of money in there.
Yep.
Charlie Swan.
Not
here-
48,000 in interest, I think the whole portfolio.
No, that's the
what it
interest.
produces in
That's the
interest.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I believe back a number of years ago, Charlie Swan has spent a good deal of time through the whole portfolio and reinvested from it.
Good.
Excellent.
I think that was left over from when the library was a separate
Yes.
association.
Yes.
That was their trust fund that they had
Right.
built up over years, so.
Right.
That was the main support of the library for many years. The town didn't invest that much in it.
Well, before it was on like that.
Now, do you spend the entire 48,000?
Like, pretty much, yes. Yeah.
Any other questions? I'm not gonna comment on the budget, so.
Yeah, just your request to replace or bring back an assistant, how would that help you? What would your
Well-
duties and such?
Well, we've been operating shorthanded. Partly, we've had a long-term illness, and that's contributed to it, no doubt. But what the library assistant would do is right now we have a reference and teen services librarian. She got promoted. She was a library assistant. She got promoted into be this reference and teen position. She works 3 nights a week. But 2 of those nights a week, she's on the desk checking books in and out, which is great. I enjoy working on the desk, checking books in and out, and but she doesn't have time to do her teen services and her reference work because she's on the desk for those 2 nights out of 3. There's another example of someone who is working 3 nights a week now, who was hired, who always did 2. There's another person who I'm doing 2 nights a week. Typically, I used to work, and I'm not even including the meeting. Well, if I had meetings, I would work maybe 6 nights a month. Now it's probably, I don't know. It's two nights a week. But that's not what I guess what I'm getting at is all the staff that have responsibilities that are kind of like off-desk responsibilities, to plan children's programs and to buy children's books and to visit the schools or do teen services or do interlibrary loan activity or get the books ready for every park. We do deliveries to every park. All that stuff is off desk, and people have had to kind of figure out how to do both things, the desk work and the off desk work. Now that's fine. I mean, It's just that I think that everyone on staff is getting very, feeling the stress of being short-handed. And I think that if we had more people to work on this, we could do a better job of planning our programs and coming up with new ways to, or better ways to engage the Stafford residents with library service. But you know, whatever happens in the budget, we'll still have a library and we'll still do the best we can with it. But I'm just, because I had a lot of discussions with the board about it and we decided to ask for the position.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, any other further questions? No comments or anything,
Presented it very well, I don't think we have any questions.
Okay, so I guess we're all set, Chris, thank you.
Thank
We
you.
will let you know what our cuts are eventually, so.
Thank you.
All right, next I have the Recreation Commission. David, you were
Yep.
going to speak on behalf of that?
Yeah, well, first thing I wanted to talk to, and I actually have some comments, which is attached to the. So this is a copy of what we submitted, which is what you have, plus the comments that explain some of the changes that are in here.
So this is your page, the budget here, 320?
Yes,
Okay, good.
yes. We checked earlier, it looks like it matches what's been submitted here.
Sure.
So I just wanted to take a few minutes, let you know what's in here. So there's only a few line items that we've changed from the previous years. And I would just like to talk to those unless you have questions about any of the other line items about how we spend our money. So I'll start with line 1015, there's a line for custodial services that has a substantial increase. It's been $9,000 and $7,000 over the past couple of years. That particular line item funds custodians for the gymnasiums on weekends for youth basketball throughout the winter, okay? That's all that line item is used for. And a couple of years ago, we started a program that allowed the custodian to not be there by training some of the coaches for blood pathogen training and whatnot. It turns out with some of the concerns about everybody and anybody could be around and in the building from a safety perspective, Dr. Collin came to us and said that we really can't continue not having a custodian, an employee of the town, staffing the building during those times. And in fact, I think even this winter, they've added some staffing there. So what we had done prior to this was have that full staff, and that full staff was in the $17,000 to $19,000 range throughout the course of the winter. So it was scaled back because we cut back on paying custodians on weekends, the basketball program did, to these numbers. So we're adding some funding back in for that for next year. We don't know what it is yet. I put a range of $13,000 to $14,500 in here. As soon as we get what the actual costs were for this winter, we would want to plug that in. Okay?
Now, this is a matter we've been going back and forth on for years, and I thought it was a matter of the union contract with the custodians.
So I believe that's been worked out with the training that was instituted with the coaches.
Right.
Okay, and I don't believe that's an issue here. The issue here is strictly the safety of the building, to making sure there is somebody on employment, making sure there's not all kinds of strange people walking in and out of the building and leaving things in lockers and bathrooms and whatnot, or
So
just being
there's
there.
one custodian
So this
which
funds
is-
one custodian,
every time there's a youth basketball program.
basically it's Saturdays and Sundays,
For all the hours that.
for all the hours starting around December through March.
Okay.
Question?
The salaries for the custodial services that you're putting in the budget here, is this money that you're paying the custodians, or this money is turned over to the board so that the board pays the custodians that's on staff?
So this is paid through the town coffers, so these are paid directly through the town, not through any of the youth basketball or any other programs, okay? it's not, the funds that we collect for registration fees and whatnot for youth basketball, actually don't go to any of this, okay? It's because there's additional charges, I believe, that those collections actually go to over and above this.
Okay, but I guess what I'm looking at is, in the school's budget, we're funding custodial services and things like that.
Correct.
And I know if I was to go rent out the gym, I have to pay a custodial fee, and that money goes to the school,
Correct.
okay? Doesn't come as part of this process. It's above and beyond what they're funded at, okay?
That's correct.
Now, so the 13 or 14.5, if you're saying this is monies that goes directly from us to the school, then this is a plus up that the school is getting of the 13 to 14.5.
Well, I think it's also additional hours by the custodian,
It's,
so there's,
it's time and a half for them
Yeah.
to be there, and it's paid out of the Recreation Commission budget,
Not out of the school
not
budget.
the school budget.
No, the
The
school
school budget doesn't
Why are
budget.
we
School
doing
pays
it that
them,
way?
and
I
then
think
we
that's what we're asking.
That's,
Why isn't the school budget just covering that? And just as we plow roads up in the parking lots up there in the town budget, why isn't the school budget covering
Well,
this process?
this is a matter that's been going on for forever. And basically, the requirement is it's in the custodian's contract, that if there's anyone using the school system, they have to have a custodian there. In other words, we can't put someone in their place, a coach or whatever.
So the schools
So
back
that-
these numbers out of their budget? No, they're paying the custodian, so are they taking this amount and backed it out of their budget? Or are they?
It's not paid out of their budget, it's paid out of the rec commission budget.
It's above and
So
beyond the
Lisa's
regular
taking and putting
custodian.
money into the school budget, is it an internal transfer, is that what's
Do
happening?
you wanna explain it, Lisa?
Yeah, Lisa.
Yeah, the Board of Ed pays them, because they're on their payroll.
Right,
So then, Damian Frazanelli usually submits an invoice to the town for the reimbursement for the youth basketball portion of their salaries. So, and then we just reimburse their line item for that. And I do believe they account for that in their budget. We'd have to look into their detail, but it could be one of those questions you ask them. Like, they'll usually show all the, sports and all the things.
right.
And then they would show that as a reduction because they're expecting it
But I
to be
mean,
paid by the
it's just,
town.
it's making work for you in the internal transfer, it's invoicing. Go back to your question, we wanna make sure there's not double accounting here. But also, just the economics of it, why isn't it just paid out of the school budget and we incorporate this into the school budget?
Okay.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Can't answer that, but that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Understand?
that's
Good,
another
thank you.
And it's
discussion.
up because of the concern about the safety of the buildings as well as the people in there, which I certainly am not gonna argue with. I agree with that. Okay. Everything else pretty much runs the same that we've done in the past. We take a look, frankly, in money that's dispersed to the youth sports programs and how much is dispersed to which groups. It really comes out to very close to about the same dollar amount per participant. So I felt like these things, we've looked at those and the way it's distributed now looks very fair. Then there's two line items at the bottom. There's a new line item, it's called risk management, education, training, and child safety. We're looking to introduce and this dollar is an estimate, we're learning to introduce stronger training programs for the coaches in terms of, there is risk management, we do background checks, we're actually getting very good at getting everybody with a background check that participates and volunteers. But over and above that, training people on how to deal with kids and making sure we have a very positive program in that respect. We don't want to have any even perception of wrongdoing that comes from any of our coaches with young children. We also want the kids treated well. This isn't even coaching training from the skill itself. This is treating the kids in a safe manner. And we would like to mandate that across all of our programs. The Recreation Commission is in the process of wanting to do that and coming up with a way to do that. We've spoken with different people so far, we're continuing to do that. I don't know if it's gonna cost $1,000, we're gonna look at what it takes to actually introduce a program like that for all the coaches across all the different seasons that we have.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah,
Sometimes
You,
mandatory.
you bring somebody in for that?
we're looking at doing that. We're trying to see if we know that there's some resources in the school system we're seeing if we can tap into those. Dr. Collin was trying to help us with that, and seeing if that's gonna work.
The CIAC has a lot of resources like that.
There are, yeah, there are.
Is it mandatory for these coaches?
We wanna make this mandatory for all volunteers.
Great idea.
Even people working in food booths at the Gilly Field, things, I mean, anybody that's coming in contact with kids, so. We get background checks, but we need to actually tell them a little bit more on a proactive basis, because if something happens and you didn't do that, you can imagine. Okay, so that's what that line item is. Like I said, that's an estimate, and we're still working on putting that program together this spring. And then the last line item is a scoreboard at the high school, and this is on the lower field at the high school level, that's varsity soccer and mostly soccer there. But there's already two other line items hanging around here. The Booster Club is contributing $2,000. The Board of Ed, I believe, is contributing $2,000, and another $2,000 we wanted to carry as a one-time line item in here. That is the contribution from the town. So I believe, so that agreement's in place. We've added that in here. It's a one-time item.
David, is that a scoreboard that somebody could advertise on, where we could get an industry or a bank or somebody to contribute and put their name on it?
That's a good question. It's a smaller scoreboard than, I don't know if anybody's familiar with what's up even at like the track field right now. It's a smaller scoreboard than that, so I don't know how much real estate's on there. We can find out, we can ask about that. I don't know.
I know TTM provided funds for that
Yeah.
sign out in front.
Yeah.
It would save the public some money and somebody gets an advertisement on it.
Yep, I'll check, I don't know exactly. I do know it's smaller. I think the scoreboard at the high school was, at the track field was in the $15,000 range, I believe. So this is a $6,000 event. It's a little smaller one. It's more suitable for that lower field, the games that are down there.
It will be used for soccer, is that what you're saying?
Well, that's,
What else are they playing that field?
right now, they're not playing anything else on that field, so they don't wanna cut the grass low enough for field hockey. And so that's for the different soccer events. Yeah.
The scoreboard is really, really, really needed there.
Well,
It's difficult to go watch a soccer
It's-
game and you don't have a clue with what's happening if you
Yeah.
come in a minute late.
yeah, it's gonna be on the, northeast corner, right?
Gee, it's not that bad, the school doesn't get to do that.
Yeah.
Score the soccer game.
Yeah, I hear it all the time.
I watched the World Cup, it was
What are the
0-0.
chances of the score being 0-0? Yeah, I know, I understand, I hear it all the time. But,
David, I will compliment you on not having anything budgeted for adult athletics. I think
yeah,
that's,
we're holding to that.
I think that's good.
We keep the line items are in here, but we're gonna hold to that.
They're self-funding when I take through cost of signing up for it.
Yes, they take care of that on their own, and some of the adult programs are actually much smaller than they used to be, so.
And for a lot of the youth programs, there's a fee, what's that fee used for? Because it's not incorporated into your
The
budget.
registration fees,
Right.
it's different for all of them, but there's all kinds of equipment, refereeing, uniforms is part of it.
We're not budgeting for those expenses.
We don't. We request that each program tells us what they're spending it on, and we've got guidelines as to what that really can be. But it really is focused on operating, and it's in the $5 per participant range.
Uniforms and equipment mostly.
It's typically equipment oriented, but we've made a few exceptions for basketball, actually, if it's the operation of the program that you actually need that for. But, yeah, it's pretty much durable equipment. Okay. Affiliations, which includes, that's the other part of what their registration covers. It's affiliations with other organizations that actually carry some insurance
You
coverage.
must have referees in that expense also, because I don't see that listed here.
That's the burden by the programs. That's what when they accept
Part of the
registration.
fee.
Registration fees don't come into this for any of these programs except the summer program. Okay?
Just a
Now-
question, Dave.
Yeah, that's okay.
Lisa, the monies that the Recreation Commission collects through other things, do we keep track of that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's for the summer rec program.
Right.
I just get what they provide, I'm not sure about how many kids are serviced, we don't get any
Yeah, right,
detail
but you-
as to the
Okay, but we take,
breakdown of how
we
many
keep
kids
track of the
actually go
monies.
through that, or that are transported.
will the registration fees actually come into the town then, is that what you're saying?
For summer rec,
Or
Yes.
summer rec, but not
The
for
summer.
Little League?
but not for
That's-
Little League, none of that,
No.
Right, that's all
just the
separate.
summer
Well,
rec.
summer rec is run by the town, but all these
Right.
other programs are run by separate
Yeah,
corporations,
leagues.
groups of volunteers that handle their own money.
Yes, why isn't custodial services required or needed for the men's basketball program?
They must fund it themselves.
Okay.
So I think their fees, they probably get billed for that. It's much smaller than that ever used to be as well, so I think it's a fairly limited number of hours.
There's a custodian in the building anyway.
Okay.
They're
There has to be,
the
so,
afternoon crew.
there has to be,
Anyway,
but
yeah.
I believe they
At
get
the
the
middle
bill
school.
directly for that. So it probably flows through the school as well. When we pay for other things, it flows through the school and we end up paying.
Good question for the school board.
Quick question on line 4100, utilities and electricity. Does that pay for the lighting for the fields when they're being utilized at night? Or,
I don't know. Sorry.
That's for like.
It's not
Keeley
something we
Field.
manage. It's not
Keeley
something.
Field lights and the,
Okay.
food booth, the bathroom facilities, the batting cages, that includes all of those electricity
How's that
in
right?
that line.
I didn't even know that.
That's what we pay for.
Yeah,
It was, it is, no, I think it might run through yours.
This is Hyde Park, remember Hyde Park Commission's lights and the,
Hyde Park pays for their
and
lights
all that lighting
down.
down, okay.
at their
So this is
house,
all Keely Field.
yeah. Pretty much all Keeley Field, and some Olympic.
yeah, I thought not. Any other questions on that?
Any other questions?
thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
It's just a real quick explanation. So this letter, I think, Cindy's made a copy of this letter. So I wasn't gonna go through a lot of detail on this letter, but I just wanted to just familiarize you with this. So the commission's also working on what other capital improvements or major improvements might be required in the town for wherever. This is our priority list. And the top 5 items are ones that have the most need right now. And the bottom five are longer-term items for us. So we keep a priority list of what those things are. So, for example, the lights at the high school, very much in need. So this might not just be for you guys, this is for our whole town. The track surface is something that it's gonna need some work. We've talked with several people about the Leventhal Run and the walking path, and that the ideal situation there is to widen the road at the next opportunity, as opposed to putting a walking path up there to get the people off the road. It's a good place to walk. So that's kind of that's a priority. We still see that as a pretty substantial priority. It's recently been brought to our attention that there's some things at Keeley Field, the bathrooms and the playscape up there need to be renovated, seriously renovated. They're at the point of not being safe. And the scoreboard at the high school is the one I just talked about. So. Other things are futures, and I just wanted to let you know, you can read this at your leisure, but we work with this too. Okay, thank you.
All right, then we have the Emergency Services District. I know we have 2 fire departments and the ambulance, so staff of the fire department, you wanna go next? Or?
Sure, Steve, over there. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to, if anybody in the public wants, I think all you guys have it. This is a very interesting article here. You wanna grab one of these, the selectmen to have it. Really, please read it. It was done in New York and Pennsylvania, but if you look at it, it fits Stafford to a T. And I'm not gonna say that the volunteer fire service is on life support, but we're getting close. We really are. It's very scary what we're responsible for these days, the amount of training, the increase of calls. I'll just give you from January to March, I think you're at 244
Something like that, yeah.
And I'm at 195, 3 months into the year, and that's more than 2 calls a day, and I'm burning out volunteers left and right. People ask me, Chief, what do you want me to do? Fundraise, come to drills, go to calls, I can't do it all, I got 2 jobs, I got a family, typical story, so it's not getting any easier for us. Going over my cover letter, I just wanna let you know, I'm trying to do the best I can to get more monies in for my group. We're on 4 different federal grants. This would be no cost to the town. This will be the 8th year. We've tried to apply for a tanker. We feel a tanker is very important to the area, the way it's growing. That would be a 3,000 gallon truck. We also applied with West Stafford Fire Department, Wales Fire Department, and Munson for 5-inch hose still, even though last year we budgeted for 4, and we did purchase it. We would like to move to 5-inch hose, and we just feel that would be a major burden on the town if we did that. We are also, this year, a grant for additional PPE and updating some of our air packs. And we also have a grant in there for regional training for forcible entry tools, so we know how to better open buildings when we don't have keys or a Knox box setup. So those are 4 grants, probably totaling in the amount of about, pretty close to $700,000 that would come to us. And if we could get all these grants this year, no guarantees on any of them. The budget itself for this year, I pretty much stayed flat. That was the request of the selectmen. I do have built-in stuff in here where we moved some monies around so we could do some different things. If you look at, as we go down the list, you'll see insurance, 0 increase, medical and fire supplies, 0 increase, dues and fees, a 0 increase, training, 0, fire prevention, 0. Building operations, this is an increase, we've moved some monies around, and we also are in an agreement with the ambulance. In order for us to make some additional money without asking for bigger budgets, we have to fundraise. That's the only other alternative we have. We can ask for donations. We have not had, since we didn't get the new building, a legal kitchen, lack of better terms. We have no hood, it's underground. When we light that stove and we cook, we smoke the place up, set the alarms off. And if we ever had a fire, there's no fire protection. So we are hoping to put a hood with fire suppression in so we can use our kitchen. Because we can't even have a fundraiser cook spaghetti. Most of our fundraisers were grilling outside. So only to make more money, that's where the increase is, $6,000. It's actually, the hood itself, we're finding out now, is gonna be 10 grand. So we're gonna be doing some fundraising to finish the kitchen, it looks like. Or working with our ladies. So that's the major increase there, is $6,000 to do some kitchen upgrades. Personal protective gear, which we're obligated now, the gear only lasts 10 years, we can send it out and have it cleaned, we can try to have it tested, but we have to outfit our firefighters, the interior guys and exterior guys. Every 10 years, we're circulating gear around. So that's why we keep that 14,000, no increase, that helps us buy right now, it hasn't gone up that bad. We probably can get 5 to 6, they're not uniforms, but bunker pants, coats, helmets, whatever we need. New equipment is a decrease, that $14,000 is what we purchased the hose with last year, I just talked about. This year, what we would like to do, in following the energy savings, but it's not really gonna be energy savings, we'd like to change our 2 engine tanks over to all LED lights. Some of the light bulbs that are on these things are getting harder and harder to purchase. And after buying the new rescue truck, the Mini, and seeing what that could do without a generator with 2 LED lights is absolutely amazing. But those heads cost quite a bit of money. So what we would like to do is slowly try to do 2 trucks at a time and change all the lighting over to LED for scene lighting. So that's a reduction, but that's where our new equipment is. Post testing, 0 increase, it's still about the same, we just sent the bid out. Miscellaneous, this is postage and computer and papers and envelopes and stuff like that, no increase. Gas and diesel, we entered in with the town, we have not been purchasing other than gas, very much diesel, we still try to support Williams and Festi. Price of diesel seems to be coming back down, gas seems to be coming back down, so we feel we can live with it. Vehicle and repairs and our PMing is staying the same, we checked, doesn't seem to be any increases that way yet. Communications, we try to keep our radios upgrading, either low bands or our VHF or UHF radios, we're trying to purchase a little at a time, 0 increase, there's enough money there to do what we need. Physicals for what new members we have and people that are coming off injuries and that, we have to retest. And then our standard computers to pay for the internet lines and computer upgrades and printer upgrades, stuff like that. So we're coming in at a 0 increase, 175. If you look at the bottom, and we did turn this over to the new formed fire commission, I still need to purchase that new rescue truck. We have the specs. We have had 3 vendors very interested. We actually started a year and a half ago, and the truck started at about $500,000. This year, it's pretty close to $720,000, and I think we put it off another year on the 10-year plan. I don't know what it's gonna be, but price of trucks is not going down. And I don't know how we're gonna purchase that truck on our own. So I pretty much went over what you know, if you look at the second page, it's going over everything that you pretty much just discussed, spelling it out. Any questions?
Well, you're looking to replace the rescue truck, in the next year's budget or in 16?
With the fire commission, we pushed it off to, and I don't wanna speak on them because they're gonna present it, but I believe they moved it off another year. We're starting the fire commission first purchase or recommended purchase for 2016, so that's putting me 3 years now out. That would be 3 years down the road. The truck just gets older and worse.
So are you gonna be looking for this is a new truck, right?
That's a brand new truck. I would love to look for it this year, but I'm going to go by what the fire commission recommendations are.
But you're looking for some sort of financing to pay for that at some point in time?
We will be. I'm not looking for it now. I'm just, as I did last year, I'm giving you a heads up. I'm looking for a new truck.
Mhm.
And now that the fire commission is in charge of that, I'll let them drive it, I guess.
Drive the truck or drive the
Both.
presentation?
If I get a new one, I'll let them drive it.
We're gonna help on volunteer.
Let him do it.
Yeah. Huh? You can hold me through that. They're pretty easy to get. You brought up a good point. I saw you ask the library, asking,
I was gonna ask you the same question.
what are you doing with funds or donations, right? I just wanna let you know, and I took this liberty, Joe, this is for your benefit too.
We're fundraisers too, then I use some fundraisers.
Yeah, well, both of us fundraise, Christmas trees, chicken dinners, hoop drop, everybody gets pissed off when they see us out here. You know, we raise quite a bit of money, and it helps, and we use it. I just wanna let you know, in the last 10 years, what we use that money for, okay? You guys purchased, not you guys, Jeff, but the town of Stafford purchased 1 fire truck in 2007 and a boat 3 years ago. Okay, between the 3 departments, we purchased 18 vehicles in that 10 years' time. Okay, 2 trailers, 1 UTV unit, this is my station, 1 Service 3, which we got a grant and put the pump in, skid unit, which made it a forestry, 3 service vehicles, which we call duty vehicles. The newest one is to arrive here in end of April or May. We turned around this year, we've been saving, and since we're not getting a building, we purchased a brand new 2015 4x4 pickup with a medical cab, all with our own money. Okay, to the tune of about $45,000. We're giving ourselves a loan. We wanted to work with the town, but we didn't want to go through a town meeting, so we could get a lease program, but it's just not worth it because we're not a municipality. And that's a big problem when we want to buy vehicles, because we're a private organization.
So you took out a loan yourself?
We're giving ourselves a loan, and we charge interest too, so we're gonna make even more money so we can buy the next vehicle. And it's sad that we have to do that, it really is. West Stafford, 2 ladder trucks, 2 duty vehicles of their own, which they have none now because the frame went on theirs, and they're in dire need of a duty vehicle, so they don't have to roll one of their bigger apparatuses. 1 shower trailer, which was donated by the state of Connecticut, and a hauler. Okay, the ambulance, trailer, all donated. All the ambulances were purchased with their own funds, or the racetrack, and 3 brand new stretchers, which they got with a grant. So just in a total of all those vehicles, that's 18 vehicles. The town paid nothing for. That's what we use, our donations, our grants, and our fundraising. And that's all I have.
Are those vehicles titled in the fire department or in the town?
Fire department.
So you own those vehicles? in other words?
Yeah, we own them.
Okay.
The 2 new ambulances that have been purchased are now under the town.
That's what I thought.
Because CDF.
Staffordville owns their own property, like in the
Fire
station.
Silver Lake Fire
and
Station.
the land with the house on it for the future station.
Yes, we are a taxpayer, even though we don't get the vote.
Taking it right back, I was in the department in the 50s. Pete Locke, Benny was myself, we signed the mortgage to build a firehouse. My wife almost killed me. But that's how we did it. We bought all the trucks up until probably 1970. The town gave us $1,500–1,600 a year. We went out and raised, we could burn grass in those days and stuff like that, and that's how we supported the fire department. The town of Stafford doesn't realize what we have as a gift from these ladies and gentlemen that do this every day.
And-
We
and-
wake up when these days do this coming.
That's really in the article,
It's coming.
and what you just quoted is almost in that article too. I just can't say it enough, without, state of Connecticut gained a grant for about $500,000 last year, and we jumped on it, it was how to grab more volunteers. We ended up with 10 people coming and signing to the fire department, we ended up with 2. When the people get there, and just the way the economy is, and he has to work 2 jobs, and then she has to go do a job, he has to take care of the kids, it's just tough to get these people to volunteer. And when they see the amount of training we're going through now, and Stafford's gonna grow, I get probably 3 to 4 phone calls a day from insurance companies calling me, asking me for how long it's gonna take for the fire department, here's the address, the guy, people wanna buy this house, what's the response time, what are you gonna get? And it's scary, if I really told them, well, you're gonna get 2 70-year-olds in a fire truck and fill out West Stafford. But I tell them, you know, we have a good response, we have some people going down, we have a good mutual aid program. But that's sad, I mean, I tell the community, I'm able to work from home, and I go to quite a few day calls when I'm around, and I'm, knock on wood, blessed, nobody has gotten hurt, because these are senior, some of these guys, I don't wanna call them senior citizens, because they're probably young in heart, young in brain, and if they're doing this fire service job, they're young, but they are 70. And Massachusetts, they wouldn't even be allowed on the scene anymore. It's sad, and I don't wanna tell these people no, because I need them. I need every one of them, every day. I can't afford for them to get sick or hurt.
Thank you.
I'm off my soapbox.
Great job, Dave, appreciate it, thank you.
You
Dave.
do a lot
It
with
was a
what the
good
town
job.
gives you.
Yeah.
Okay, West Stafford?
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, Emergency Services Commission, here we are again. And I'm going to echo a few of Chief Lucia's comments. He stated that the fire service isn't on life support, but it is almost in intensive care. I'm going to tell you that right now. The fleet is rapidly aging. You can't run a modern fire department on bake sales and plant sales. You can't do it. 1971, when I started, we bought fire apparatus for $30,000. You just heard tonight that the cost of that apparatus is now appreciated to about $700,000. Little known factoid is in the fire service, apparatus purchase prices appreciate by about 6% a year. That's an industry standard. You can count on a minimum of a 6% increase from the price today to the price next year. And we've gone through this, we've been down that road with several pieces of apparatus. Excuse me. What you're gonna find in our particular corner of the world for the budget this year, you're gonna see a bottom line increase in the operating budget of 6.45%. What you're not going to see is you're not gonna see a special appropriation request this year. So in effect, excuse me, our bottom line should drop. I believe last year we had $196,000, you're down to the bottom line figure being $185,916 this year, and I'll get to where that is in the budget in a second. Through all the budget difficulties last year, we ended up with a 1.87% increase last year, which was one of the first actual real increases we've had in a budget in a very long time. And it did, excuse me, it did go a long way in some vehicle maintenance things and things of that nature. We didn't purchase 4-inch fire hose last year because we couldn't afford it. We ended up with several major failures on line apparatus last year, the turbochargers and water pumps, and a catastrophic pump failure on the 1989 engine tanker, and a steering box on the 1989 engine tanker, which in not to mention, 13 tires we ended up buying last year, 16 tires last year, so that's your maintenance budget for the year and then some. The apparatus fleet, as I alluded to, is getting older, and when you start seeing older apparatus, you start seeing maintenance costs rise dramatically. What you don't see is you don't see the out-of-service time on a piece of apparatus. The 1989 engine tank that I alluded to was out of service for 8.3% of the year last year. So when you start getting 8, 9, 10% out of service time, it is not good for your capability. This year, we are asking proposed budget of $185,916, which is the 6.45% that I alluded to, and it's an $11,260 increase over the prior year. The general organizational overview is pretty much the same as you have seen in previous packets. I won't belabor the point. Our activity levels, we did about 770 calls last year, which was down because there were no giant storms that kept us chasing trees and wires for days on end. But I don't think you're going to see that this year, as Chief Lucia has already alluded to. Our agency is on track for over 1,000 calls this year. The EMS demands that are being placed on the fire service are absolutely astronomical. We are at the elderly project multiple times every week. We have a few people that we somewhat sarcastically refer to as frequent flyers, that we are at their houses once or twice a week. And as is the last part of that article that Chief Lucia gave you, somebody calls 911, you know who goes? We do. They call us for everything. And if they call 911, we are duty bound and obligated to respond to that call. Doesn't matter if you call once or if you call 100 times. We are obligated to go. Our vehicles, which is after that, is pretty much the same. We have the same fleet as that we have been presented with for a while. If you get to town, you're going to see mostly zero increases in the various lines. 130 is insurance. There is a zero increase. Service maintenance contract for vehicles. We have held the line on contracts. That saves our lives. The service, comprehensive service programs that we participate in are literally saving our lives when it comes to apparatus. And that gets us a DOT certificate, which means the trucks are inspected by certified people, and the maintenance has saved us and extended the life of some of these vehicles. Our service contract for pagers is a zero increase. Dues and subscriptions to various professional organizations and periodicals is a zero increase. Cost of training, line 134, is a zero increase. Fire prevention and public education is a zero increase. Fire and medical resupply, that buys the Band-Aids, the trauma pads, the splints, the airways, etc., is a zero increase. The county support vehicle is a fixed cost. We have no control over that. That's part of Talon County Mutual Aid Fire Service Incorporated, and that gets us the support if for a dive call. It gets you the specialized equipment that comes on a dive trailer. The capital outlay this year is where the majority of the increase in the budget comes from. A number of years ago, we received 39 self-contained breathing apparatus and 39 spare cylinders through a federal grant. Those cylinders have a finite lifespan, and I'm seeking to replace 5 of them this year and 5 in each succeeding year from now on until I get to the number of 39. And those cylinders this year are about $1,400 a piece.
Those are 5-year cylinders, right?
15. They're 15-year cylinders.
Ours are 5, that's why.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, they're 15-year cylinders, and gone are the days when you can send them out and have them hydrostatically tested. 15 years, you gotta cut it up and throw it away.
Right.
And that is the majority of the increase that you're gonna see in here. Janitorial services, no increase. 155, building maintenance, no increase. Our facilities are in pretty good shape. We invested in things like painting and some roof work, and things of that nature. No increase this year. Protective clothing, I won't belabor that point, as for NFPA and OSHA. If we were more active fire-wise, you'd get less than 10 years out of a garment. The average probably 5 or 6 is more like it. 0 increase. New equipment is a 0 increase for the upcoming year. Administrative costs, that's the paper clips, postage, computer time, computer programs. Excuse me, 0 increase.
Go back to new equipment.
Yes.
Isn't that an increase of 3,500? Protective clothing, protective clothing went down, new equipment.
I'm sorry. Actually, you may see, we're looking to,
You forgot, so we just cut that out.
yeah, we're looking to take, okay.
Training, we're not on training too, we figured we're skipping right over that one.
Did I go by old paper? I don't know. Training, there was, you're right, let me go back to the main page here.
You better figure out what that new equipment
Yeah, I gotta figure out the new equipment. It was actually part of
is. You can come back to that, okay?
no, part of the new equipment is what they call a blitz fire. It's a portable, portable master stream, for want of a better word. It's a high gallonage device. We have one that we purchased, and we'd like to purchase the second one for the other engine tanker with limited personnel. If you show up on a working fire during the day, you put a 2.5-inch line to it, and one guy can run a 500-gallon-a-minute nozzle. So that's where that is. We also have started to add a master stream to the squad. It was plumbed for it when we bought it. It was never on there. And that's gonna go on. And that's gonna give you, basically, all of our apparatus will be equipped with a master stream device now. And with the fire load that we have, especially in the service district, and now increasing in the outlying areas with all the vacant buildings, you're probably gonna be in a master stream operation more than often than not if you're gonna work in fire. Training, we did increase, I'm sorry for the typo in the budget packet. We did increase the training because training's getting more expensive. We are, while there are no definitive regulations in the state of Connecticut for training, we are pretty much mandating that all of our new personnel go through the introductory fire program, which is Firefighter 1. And that may get more expensive if the governor has his way, because now they want to pass the full cost of training on to all the agencies. No, it's not a mandate. However, if we have an injury and OSHA comes out, they want to see those training certificates. So it's in everybody's best interest that we send those people to that training. Some of us old folks are grandfathered in and are exempt from some of those standards. However, now here's a catch-22 for you. If I wanted to take an advanced class that required a firefighter 2 certification, the state would let me take it because I've been in the fire service prior to 1975. So in effect, they're saying you're qualified at least at a firefighter 2 level, but they won't give you a certificate that says that. Interesting. Telephone, no increase. Electricity, no increase. Gasoline and diesel, we had split those into separate lines, as you saw in the previous budget. We asked for a 0 increase. Fuel and heat, which is heating oil, no increase. We were lucky enough to get on the town program for things such as fuel oil and diesel fuel, which has allowed us to hold the line. Line 186 is the TN assessment. That's a fixed cost. There was a 5% increase imposed by Talon County Mutual Aid per capita. In this budget cycle, we have no control over that figure. That provides your 911 dispatching and anything else that goes along with it. Equipment maintenance, even though we had some serious expenditures last year, it's a 0 increase. Communications, we had not gone up in that line, even though we probably should, because there are numerous recommendations out there by OSHA and NFPA. I say recommendations, they're not regulations, that every firefighter or every riding position be equipped with a portable radio. Portable radio is about $600 probably for a UHF portable, and I would have to provide about 20 riding positions, so that's a considerable amount of money. I can't really in good conscience ask for that money after the difficulties that we had last year with the budget. Our audit, is done yearly, there's no increase there, no increase in physicals. SCBA testing, no increase, SCBA maintenance, no increase. Ladder testing, there is a minor increase in that line because it reflects the service that we received the prior fiscal year, the actual dollar value. Compressor maintenance, that's periodic maintenance, that's mandated on our breathing air compressor that we also received under that grant in, I believe, 2008. And those are quarterly tests for air quality and function, and we have to do that. Hose testing, no increase. Pump testing, another one of those minor increases in that line item that reflects the actual billed expense for fiscal year 2014. The Homeland Security budget, no increase. Snow removal, no increase. And alarm monitoring, no increase. We also have included our fiscal capital improvement timetable, and I believe it's out to 2024 now, and you'll hear the commission address that. And there's a capital expenditures breakdown which follows it, just fleshes out the information that's in that chart. I did put a paragraph in regarding the out-of-service time and the cost to repair that vehicle, which was $10,700, which is more than half of our maintenance budget. And you have a couple of the standard charts and graphs updated to the prior figures that we have.
How many radios do you have?
Right now, the officers each have a portable radio, and there is one or two, depending on whether they're in service, out of service, on apparatus. But they recommend, with the demands and the hazards of instructional firefighting now, that each firefighter in a riding position have a portable radio in case they have a problem. Well, we don't have headsets in the truck yet either, but it's coming. They're gonna want each riding position in a fire truck to have noise canceling, noise reduction headsets. And those are about $500 a pop, not to mention the wiring and everything that goes along with them. And these are mandates. Another unfunded mandate, unfortunately, you know.
Who mandates these?
OSHA? Yeah, and the federal government. And they bring it in as a safety standard, they always got something new. NFPA, you have to understand what NFPA is. Obviously, it's the National Fire Protection Association, which would make you believe that it's all fire service professionals. Wrong. It's a group of individuals who are representatives of the fire service, representatives of the insurance agencies, and representatives of the manufacturers. So where do you think the standards come from? The guys that manufacture fire hose were probably very happy to get that standard passed that said you gotta scrap it and change it every 10 years. And that's what we run into.
Not to mention, since we're talking fire hose, this year, we're mandated.
Yep.
Not only do you have to test the hose.
You have to test the nozzles and everything else that goes
Every
with it.
attack line, the hose and nozzle that's used with that hose has to be tested, and if it doesn't pass, I guess we're gonna be buying new nozzles.
And that's tested by an outside outfit.
Third
Third party testing.
Yeah, which gives us a report.
You're gonna see an increase, or a request, probably in the next year or so, our older extrication equipment, which is the original Hurst tool and cutters that we have been using for decades, is no longer being supported by Hurst. So, once they stop supporting it, it becomes a non-certified piece of equipment, because we have that tested and certified every year. Excuse me, that's what you see in these, most of the line items towards the end of the budget are these, we gotta do them. It's not, we want to, or we should, it's a you have to. Because when you get audited, the last OSHA visit that I received, they wanna see the testing for pumps, they wanna see the testing for the Hurst tools, they want the air quality reports. And, you have no choice.
So just a point of
Yes.
clarification, just correct me if I'm wrong. It looks like your budget last year was $195,960,
Okay.
not the 174 that you're reporting in the
Well,
scan.
you had, I did not include the special appropriation on that bottom line.
Right, but last year your budget was 195,000, because it included 20,000 special assessment.
The only thing I put on there was the
So
actual
actually, your
operating.
budget actually went down this year,
Correct.
5.13%, so just for the members of the public that are here.
budget actually went down.
Oh, yes, it did, because we did not ask for a special appropriation.
What was the special appropriation for last year?
God, I
It
don't
was-
remember
it
off
was
the
like
top of
the
my head. We had,
Out of a truck, you had,
Oh, all right.
tires and, the 1999 engine tanker that, hasn't gone yet, but the funds are still there to redo the tank support and the dump valves on it to make it more versatile. Incidentally, the EOC is still without a standby generator because that exploded in September, and we haven't been able to replace that yet.
that's not good.
Questions, comments?
Good job, Joe, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Just a point that Joe brought up too, and there was one other thing I wanted to mention. He brought up about the governor is looking to possibly not fund training. We're actually trying to get Eastern Connecticut Fire School, where we send most of our guys. They were supposed to get a brand new building so we can train guys in Willimantic, instead of sending them down to New Haven or Hartford or Windsor Locks. And that looks like, you know, there's ifs whether that's gonna happen in training, but also there's a 911, Demis, is that how you say it, Bill?
Yes.
They're actually looking to move funding from your 911, when you pay your phone bill, that goes towards 911, which helps the dispatch centers.
They're rating it.
They're looking to reallocate that money to other sections of the state, where Collin County, which is our dispatch, could see some funding taken away from it. And if that funding gets taken away, again, with the training hit and that funding, which could be as much as maybe $70,000 that they'll have to pass across all the towns at the end. So, you know, we're going backwards here, boys and girls. Write a letter to your
The state's saying-
representatives.
The state is saying, you pay for it.
Yeah, exactly.
We've seen it in education, we were getting like 57% support for education, we're down to 3%.
But all these people have gotten used to that service, and then everybody complains about their taxes going up. This is what's happening. We have no choice. We gotta continue the quality of service we've always given.
I will not speak for the Emergency Services Commission, I'll let my representative do that, but, there is paid personnel on the horizon. It's gonna have to happen. It is absolutely going to happen. Chief Lucia is experiencing the same issues that we all are, and that is a declining number of volunteers. You can't run people 1,000 calls a year and expect it to show up all the time. We get new people, and it's the same thing. They're all gung-ho to get started, and then, well, I gotta do this. And I have to go to 15 weeks every weekend to firefighter training school on my dime, because they gotta drive there. Times are changing, and not so much for the better for the volunteer fire service.
Thank you very much for all you do.
All right.
Thank you.
Did you want to speak to the ambulance?
Sure. Good evening.
Everybody have a copy of?
I'll get you correct.
There is some,
I'm embarrassed.
I guess, I'm gonna try to breeze through this for you pretty quickly. There's, some line item changes as to,
We got this on Monday, right? Yeah. You got it, propose on it.
yeah, the spreadsheet's on the last page of it. Do you need one?
I do need one. Thank you.
We changed some of our line items around, that's why some of our, dollar figures look a little, we have a couple of zeros in our, this year compared to what's gonna be next year. The insurance line item, which is, 130, there was, an oversight on our end. We didn't expect the insurance to be that high, so we had to readjust it, for this coming year. That's with the increase in the two new ambulances. That did bring our price up a little bit. Insurance reimbursements, which is a new line item for, this coming year, is the health insurance overpays us, we have to pay back either the health insurance company or the person themselves. Usually it's 25, 30, up to $100. The refunds, yep. The reason we've made it a line item is so that we can actually track on our end a lot easier, and for Lisa to be able to track it. The Speedway paramedic, is actually paid from the funds we receive from the Speedway. It's all within their nightly cost or monthly charge. But because we have to cut the check, or we cut the check to them, we need a line item to show what we're actually spending it. Dues and subscriptions did not change. That's our normal periodicals, trade magazines. Training did go up. It doubled. The price of our training, for somebody to go take an EMT class now is $1,000. So for them to take a recert is anywhere from $250 to $350. An EMT has a recert every 3 years. Unfortunately, we're getting into the cycle of more than half of our members have to recert within the next year. So that's why that ended up going up. We are lucky, we do try to split it with the fire departments if they're dual members, to try to work here, even out each other's budgets. Capital outlay, this was supposed to purchase VHF radios for our ambulances this year, and computers for the offices. We've had to reallocate that money into fixing our now oldest ambulance. We just got back this week, cost us almost $17,000 a year to repair. So we had to reallocate money. Building maintenance, 2,000, that's for the Munson Road building. That's for something happens, we have to fix something. I don't think we've actually spent a whole lot of that this year. New equipment, $2,500. They changed a lot of our protocols as to final precautions and what we can and can't do on scenes. So we do need to purchase a couple new pieces of equipment, which actually makes our technicians' lives a lot easier. It's a lot better for the patients. And the state's actually advancing what we can do, so that's a benefit. Administrative costs, this went down by reallocating the money into the different line items. That's the normal postage and, let's see. Telephone stayed the same. Electricity stayed the same. This is the electricity at the Munson Road building. Gas and diesel stayed, went up a little bit. TN assessment went up a little bit because of the increase there. The only difference between us and the fire departments, we don't pay the support service part of it. Just the two fire departments do that. Equipment maintenance went down with having the 2 new ambulances and this one getting the repairs that it's had this year. We felt comfortable being able to lower that substantially, 4,000. Communication stayed at 2,000, is to buy the normal pagers and legal services we were able to drop. We're not in the contract year, so we don't see any big expenditures coming out of our legal services. We did leave it so for our taxes and stuff, so forth. Billing agent fee is the 36,000, stayed the same, and that's for our fees for the billing company when we do a call. They send out the payments. The 2 new line items on the bottom, 201 is Station 245 expenses. With the agreement with the fire department is to start taking on at least half of the responsibilities of the utilities of the building down here. The ambulance uses the building triple as to what the fire department does.
Well, that's the building over here,
Correct.
that's
Correct.
basically the ambulance building now.
Yes, well, the fire department, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
right,
Yes.
you,
With this budget year, we added staff on at night, so there's somebody in the building from midnight to 6 PM every day, and then 24/7 on the weekends. And then if you see down further, the new stipend program, it's gonna put a second person in the building from midnight to 6 with them, which guarantees the truck on the air within 3 minutes. The first ambulance on the air within 3 minutes. We're running into the same issues as the fire departments. It's very hard for us to get somebody to come out at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to go to a call. As a volunteer. Especially if they have to get up and go to work the next morning. The fire departments, I'm not neglecting or trying to take away what they do, because they do provide a great service on the scene. On the ambulance, they get to go home, we got another hour, hour and a half before we get to go back home.
Accurate.
And that's if we go to the hospital here in town. God forbid we have to go Hartford or St. Francis, you're looking, if you leave at 2 AM, you're not coming home till 4:30. And then to get up to go to work at 5 it's becoming difficult. And trying to get the people to do the classes, just take an EMT class now is 7 to 8 months, by the time everything's said and done. And that's a lot of schooling for people that are now working 2 to 3 jobs. The 2014 ambulance payment is the new refurb, or the remount. That should actually be in the next month, with any hope. Which the $24,000 this year was used off of what was left over from last year's budget, or revenue that came in, was left over after the revenue. It is, I'll get to it in a second. Payroll, there was an increase just by contract. Debt services actually dropped 70,000, which we could probably, hopefully drop more. We have an agreement with, ASM, which is who we owe our outstanding debt. When the ambulance got into the financial crisis that they did, it was up over $200,000. We're now down under 100,000 with an agreement that they'll let us pay it off at 50 cents on the dollar. Which brings it down to under, it's $48,000, $49,000 is a complete payoff. So we're trying to save as much in this budget year as we can, and with whatever excess revenue and whatever else we can come together with fundraising and everything else to make that payment go away, the debt services. It still get used, the debt, portion of that debt services still gets used for paying ASM or whoever we get as a paramedic. But the hope is to try, if we can get this paid off, to be able to get the ambulance to go paramedic ourselves, so they're not paying out $70,000 to a commercial service that we can keep in town and collect the extra revenue ourselves. But to do that, we have to get rid of that debt before we can move forward. Unfortunately, for us to move forward to go paramedic means having somebody, a paramedic on duty, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a big increase in our payroll, an increase in our payroll, and a one-time increase in the equipment. But in the long run, it would be very advantageous for the town itself, especially now with the revenue coming back in this side. Lisa, we're still on track as to?
Yep.
Okay. We work with the town, I'm here once or twice a week harassing Lisa and me. But-
Lisa, can you just go over that, because that was gonna be one of the questions I had, and always good.
Yeah, they're running on
Is it-
schedule,
As far as
last year.
reimbursements,
Right, yeah, and then the money's coming in, we get deposits weekly.
are we break even?
No, the whole reason for this, was a cash flow issue. They pay out faster than the money comes in. A lot of their calls now, are just slipping calls, they haven't got the money in, it's starting to flow in now, so it should turn around.
But on an annual basis, is it?
It's the same as it was last
And
year.
it should come out pretty close to breaking even at some point?
Correct, yeah,
And
last year it
we
was
had a-
24,000 ahead.
Right.
Okay, so we are
And that's what we're
reducing the debt service then?
Correct.
And like they said, their call lines are going up, and we're already on almost to 400 calls this year. Ambulance is doing 3-4 calls a day. And it's only projected to get busier, especially if they build the new Avery Park complex goes in, they're talking.
The biggest thing that I was amazed, Alex, is actually with 3 ambulances now, we've had calls within the same, less than 2 hours, all 3 ambulances are being used.
Multiple, repeated, multiple incidents of simultaneous calls.
Right.
And sometimes both districts have one or two calls at the same time. It's amazing.
Which having that third ambulance rather than going out to mutual aid, and as long as we can get it out, and that's the hard part, when it comes to the second and third ambulance, we're relying on the volunteers. We've been lucky during the day, 95% of the time during the day I'm home, because of my work schedule, and we have another member in town, who's around. And we get we can get the ambulance out, or the fire department's help us with the driver. We have a system set up with our paid staff that if they're in town, it gets to a retone, they're allowed to come back and do the call. You have to pay them their hourly rate, but
We try to echo that because we have to call for the mutual aid ambulance if they don't get in. And I look at it as, that's dollars not coming in, and someday when we make more dollars, that could be the dollars that pay for my fire truck. So guys, you need to drive if you're certified. You know, I realize you might have to go to Hartford, like you said, and you might lose four hours of your personal time that you volunteer and you're not getting paid for it, and the guy next to you is, but it is what it
and
is.
that's the hard part, and, you know, we kind of figured out, we were hoping it wasn't going to happen, but as soon as we implemented the first half of the stipend program, we saw a decrease in our other, you know, our EMRs and the people who come to drive the ambulance, because the other volunteers getting a stipend to be there, they're not, they're still completely volunteering their time. So that's why we're trying to, in here is the new stipend program, which adds, it's a lesser amount, but it gives them something to come and do the, you know, 6 hours. Anything that we can do to try to, you know, increase it. It's actually helped us, and we have people looking to come, they're like, oh, you're paying $75 a night to be there? I'll come join. That helps. If they're trained in with another organization, so.
I didn't see a total for 2015, but actually your budget's
Sorry.
going down, no? By about $5,000? I assume we just add those up in like 14, 15.
It's got over the 492,
No,
the new
no, it
budget.
is going up. It's going up because of the 14,000. Okay.
But your 100 debt service went down to 70.
You said it's 472, Steve, 350.
I'm going by these numbers again.
Yeah, I know.
I don't have it added up, I'm sorry. Lisa, do you have what our line item, or, you don't have
I
that?
don't have it. Wait a minute.
$20,435. That's what 476,
Yeah, no,
which is
that's what I'm
higher,
going
which is
by.
higher than 472.
Okay.
Shows here.
And now with the Speedway, next month's April, we'll be starting at the Speedway, so our revenue goes back up.
Well, the
because of-
Speedway pays you. for the
Correct,
time.
which comes back here,
Right.
goes towards our revenue and our,
So you have full-time paid staff during the daytime and evening hours? Is
correct.
that-
Monday through Sunday, they're here 6 PM, or sorry, 6 AM to 6 PM.
Mhm.
And on the weekends, it's 24/7. From Friday night at 6 PM to Sunday night at 6 PM, there's somebody in that building,
All right.
24 hours a day.
And the purpose of the stipend is to get someone to be overnight
From midnight to 6.
during the weekday,
No, that's gonna be 7 days now.
7 days, okay.
So it'll put a second person there on the weekends as well.
Right,
Um,
in addition to the full-time? Okay,
Correct.
gotcha. All right. So in other words, the purpose of this is so that you'll have someone there ready to
Correct.
go when
Yep.
the call comes.
We'll still be relying on volunteers from 6 PM to 12 midnight, but our duty crew program actually works
Mhm.
really well for that point.
Right.
It's from midnight on is when we have a
Sure,
significant issue.
absolutely.
What's the condition of Munson Road building and what are we using the building for?
Currently, the town police are using it as a storage. We have some things there as well. They park 2 cruisers there. They park cruisers in
Is the
there.
roof still leaking? I mean,
Yes.
is still a mold problem there?
The everything on the inside of the bays where they are has been, all the insulation and everything from the roof has been removed. So it gets really cold in there, but to park a vehicle and leave it for the night, it's all right.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it leaks and it gets wet.
The roof leaks.
Yep.
It's a town building, Rich?
No, it's not.
It's not.
No, this belongs to you guys.
Belongs to
Correct.
library. I mean, the ambulance and the land also?
Correct.
belongs to the ambulance?
The ambulance owns the,
There's a contract
there's-
on it, they have an agreement with the Stafford Cemetery Association, it's prior to their use.
as long as it stays within the emergency services.
Right.
It's pretty much used for some portion of emergency services. And that's how you interpret that?
Okay, but I mean, as long as it's used for emergency services.
Correct, and it is,
And they've granted us usage of it, okay.
I think there's been some discussion with
there has, we have
organization
talked.
and the Cemetery Association.
Well, we've had a lot of businesses approach us as to what we're doing with the building, and the cemetery won't sell off the property. They're not gonna sell it to a private.
No.
as to what I've gotten, and I think Rich has gotten the same feedback from them, is, they're not gonna sell it outright to somebody. They don't wanna see a car garage in there, or a bar, and that's what primarily the interest has been, is to turn it into a bar or make it a shop. We've had a lot of thought or discussions of making it a town facility management building or facilities building, and still being able to store the cruisers and the extra trailers that we have and stuff like that there, it's just coming up with, fun.
Question for you, but maybe one of the three of you can answer, because it has to do with telephone expense. And I think I've answered my own question, because I know what my telephone bill is. It's about equal to each one of your budgets, so what's the telephone expense? What's included?
For the ambulance, it's for the modem that runs in the ambulance, so that we can do our run
So it's
phone,
internet,
the chief's cell phone,
okay.
and the office line and a fax line.
3 lines, and then we have a hot swap. So if we have a major incident, like the building collapse down here, we can put a mobile internet right there for laptops and stuff like that. And that thing alone, without even any uses, is
So that
like $40
expense
a
is
month.
reasonable. You know, I questioned it first, and I said, what are you paying for cell phone lines, Ted? Oh my God.
Yeah, we have, we're hardwired, we have 3 hardwired lines plus 1 for the registrars and 1 or 2 for the EOC. And 1 cell phone, and it pretty much is what it is.
So if it weren't for the debt service, you would be self-sustaining with the revenue?
No, because regardless, we still have the debt service, because we still have to provide the ALS, we have to pay for that.
Okay.
It wouldn't be as high. That, the $100,000 helps pay off the back debt, plus pay our current.
That was the hangover from when you were independent, right?
Correct.
And you're paying
Correct.
it off.
Right, and the biggest problem we've had was the cash flow, was, especially this time of year, we have a lot of elderly slips, falls. Medicare and Medicaid is our worst income, and it takes the longest to get in. So if we did a call December 1st, we'll probably see it March 30th or somewhere in that area.
Right, but what I'm getting to, eventually that's gonna go away,
That is the
that
hope,
debt.
that is the hope, yep.
And you are paying it down with the, net revenue
Correct.
that you've had in
Yes.
previous years. So,
Well,
again,
this
you
was
should be self-sustaining at some point, hopefully.
Hopefully. I don't think we'd wanna switch the program that we have currently, seeing that the revenue, the excess revenue comes back into the town to help pay for the capital expenditures.
It also balances out their cash flow probably.
Correct. And that's the hope, is that, this year, I've been chief almost 10 years now, and, oh my God, yeah, 10 years. This was the first year since I've been chief that has been positive revenue. So it was a great success being able to work with the town the way that we have.
And you've been part of the town how many years?
This is our 2nd year. We've had 1 full budget cycle.
Great job.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, did you wanna speak on behalf of the Fire Services Commission, or,
Sure.
Okay.
I wasn't on the agenda, so I wasn't.
Oh, you are now, I just put you on the agenda.
So I'm Natalie Clark, and I'm the chairperson of the Emergency Services Commission. And we were asked to convene to come up with a 10-year capital budget plan, capital expenditures, and a lot of, gentlemen have spoken about these already. So we started with next year's budget process, since we're so far into the budget for this year. And this is just the 10-year plan that we're presenting on behalf of the 3 different departments. So if you have questions on it, we have 3 experts here that can speak to it, or we can table it till after the budget process goes through, however you guys wanna proceed. But we did wanna present this and get this in. As you hear, it's important. There's a lot of equipment that's needed.
Well, it's a good idea that we have this, because then we can make estimates as to what to expect in the future. So you're looking at, basically, I know David requested the new vehicle, and you're gonna put into doing that with 16-17 budget, is that the,
Yes.
okay.
Unless you get some extra money.
You're not even looking at a new fire station until 2020?
He wants it sooner, but that's when we figured we'd put it in there,
We-
with all
we
the
had to-
equipment.
We had to give and take, and that's why we're trying to get Stafford Lake Station, you know, up to snuff. We neglected it, we gotta bring it back up.
My suggestion, just from my side, not anybody else, that should be moved back close to this, because the town's gonna have to go to a major bonding program in the next couple of years. They're gonna have to, they have no choice. We have dirt roads all over town, so we gotta do something, so this should be part of a organized program that covers the needs. But we gotta prioritize it and get,
Not
somehow
to
get
steal
this in.
Natalie's thunder, but I actually ran that whole 10-year plan as a one-shot bond, and I have the numbers here if you want to know what I can tell you everything. It comes out to, the total would be like $12 million. That's what their payout would be at the end of the year.
But you're saying that the construction of a new fire station would be approximately 4 million?
That's what we're still looking at, the same numbers. They built a station that we wanted, just got built down in Route 44 in South Putnam, and came in at 3.8 million
Excellent.
for a population of 4,000 people. I don't know how they did it. They don't have a lot of businesses, a Tractor Supply and a couple of businesses on 44, they're outside the city of Putnam, but it's our station. So,
East Putnam.
East Putnam. It's our station, they do it, the architect got our plans, changed some colors, we did the rooms, and it's our firehouse.
Yeah.
So I feel comfortable that, you know, putting a little bit of increase in there, and things are coming down, building's improving. Of course, that's a basic building, there's no solar program or anything else in it.
I think we'd have to start discussing it back from the very beginning,
I agree.
put it in the whole town's plan. This is great.
You'll also find in 2017-18 that there is allocation for a starter plan for paid emergency services. We had a lot of discussion on that, we weren't sure if we should put it in here or not, but we wanted to bring it to the attention of the town that everyone feels it needs to go in this direction. So we put it in here to start discussion of paid services, paid emergency services, and you've heard from all three of them how important it is.
You think you can wait that long, Joe?
We'll try.
Well, they would like all of this year, but have it.
Bill, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just as a point of interest, the Board of Finance asked us to put this program together, and what we did was to give you everything by way of request. How the Board of Finance really would like to work that, the commission is absolutely, would be excited to sit down with you and work out the numbers, whether it be a financing plan, whether it be a bond issue, as you talked about before. These are the needs. We talked about the personnel, and I think that's, everybody would agree in emergency services, that it's at a critical point. If the Board of Finance thought that it should not be in here and be funded in another way, or if they thought it could be funded through a capital item, that would be fine with the commission. We're just trying to get everything that we have to you, kind of so you're the experts in the field.
Well, we've dealt with the capital items several different ways, with the lease purchases and
Yes.
with the, you just buying the vehicle and taking a loan on the vehicle, or incorporating into a larger package. I mean, that we can do as we go along. But the personnel, I mean, that's gonna be ongoing expense once we put it in.
Correct,
So-
that's what we didn't know, that's why we labeled it as startup.
Right.
That's just that year, you know,
Right.
you gotta get benefits and that, but after that, that line item is gonna appear just like the rest of the line items every year.
And
You're
it's-
gonna have raises and.
It's gonna go up every year. I
Yeah,
mean, that's
probably.
I mean, basically, at some point, I mean, what you need is a commitment and understanding from the people who are gonna pay for this, that we are gonna have to increase the budget. I mean, $700,000 is a mill. So we're gonna have to increase the budget by a mill in order to have paid fire protection. And you have to convince the people who are gonna come voting for this that we need this.
And one of the other things, we didn't know how to handle that, whether it would be regular paid full-time people, but we weren't objectionable to the idea of paid call. A lot of the volunteer services that are still considered volunteer aren't really volunteer like we are, they're called paid call. Where rather than just the tax incentive they may get, they're getting paid $10, $12 per hour they go to these calls. It helps pay for their gas, their wear and tear on their vehicle. They're getting a little bit something, so, you know, I had guys tell me, hey, I get nothing from my tax incentive, but if you were paying me $24 an hour to go fight a 2-hour fire, I might come, you know, you might start seeing more people. Yeah, they gotta work, that's the thing, you gotta have a professional there who say these guys work. You can't be checked off on the list just to get $24, because that's not how it's gonna work. That's also in this article. I mean, there's everything everybody's trying. Pay
Right,
people.
but the only problem with that system is that they're not necessarily there if you need them.
Correct.
And paid personnel is someone working at the fire department who will always be there for, in paid call it's like volunteers, I mean, basically. you have
It
the same
is still
problem.
like, but you might get more people around during the day. I mean,
My take on the whole thing is what you're gonna end up seeing, there's 3 levels or 4 levels of the fire service. You have full volunteers, you have the 24/7 professionals, and I hate that word, because I think we are professional, we just don't get paid for it. You have paid on call, which is paid, and you have a combination department. I think you're going to see probably a combination department that incorporates all facets of that. You're gonna have to have paid people during the day. You can certainly supplement that with the paid on-call people. And as he stated, and as I believe Chief Moore alluded to, once you start paying people, you end up with a critical shortage of volunteers, because if somebody's getting paid for it, why am I gonna?
Town of Summers is going through that right now. They think that's
Yeah.
Tomlin. If you actually have a scanner and you listen for it, you'll hear Tomlin go out.
Retone.
It'll retone, and then all of a sudden, it's
And paid staff.
retone for the paid staff, because the volunteers aren't cut.
And I think one thing that needs to be mentioned too, and I know Dave can talk more about it, is having paid service, your homeowner's insurance can go down based on
Right.
town ratings.
In your ISO.
Tuesday, we're going through an ISO audit, and, you know, that's gonna probably be some questions, so we got paid people, they wanna know about the hydro districts, how much water can you pump, how many engines respond, who do you have coming into mutual aid, which I improved the mutual aid for the service district here, because we're not at a manpower crisis, but we do have a problem with manpower during the day, is I'm bringing in Crystal Lake, because Crystal Lake now, I found out, has, most of their people work second shift, so they can give me a crew of 8 guys on 2 fire apparatuses. So I said, you know what, you're coming to Stafford automatic on any house fire or structure fire. I gotta do it. We're robbing another town yet again.
So you just put them on so they get toned every time?
Automatic response, when the dispatch comes in, if it's a house fire in the service district, Crystal Lake is hungry. Wellington sometimes during the day, if it's Kuno, can beat us coming out of that station.
Sure.
The ambulance is
Middle
getting,
of the night, I can.
the ambulance gets reimbursed for calls. The fire department, no
Does not.
reimbursement, we can't bill, why is that?
We tried that, we tried it on car accidents, and we were doing it for a while, and the selectman at the time did not like it, he called it double billing because we're getting this budget.
There's also something that has popped up in a couple different communities, that actually requires a charter revision.
Right.
Okay.
If you
One of
want,
the things, Rich, I'm not sure, but we have to provide fire service, police service, and health service. That's part of the selectmen type of
right,
statute.
but to ask for reimbursement, to bill somebody's insurance company for services, and that's the service he's talking about. It's not a subscription service, you see the nightmare stories, fire department shows up, you didn't subscribe, your house burns down. That's not that. But what that is, the fire department shows up, there is a rate schedule out there, so much for people, so much for apparatus, so much for time. But it really, in order for us to do that, it has to be a charter revision.
Right, and Wellington does that, that is for motor vehicle accidents. They do the insurance recovery, and it all depends on what kind of accidents you get. They make out okay because they have a highway. Here,
We made about
So much.
$3,000.
yeah,
So do we need statute to do it, because we don't have a charter?
What do you say?
Well,
Doesn't make a lot of
It could be,
difference.
I think it's
It's
either
either
an
the
ordinance,
county-
excuse me, an ordinance or a charter revision.
Do we have an ordinance that prohibits it?
No,
We
you have
need
to have an ordinance
that-
that enables, it has to be
Enables it.
enabling legislation.
Enables it.
I can picture possibly what we could work towards is
you know, even if it's a part-time person, they could sit down, go through their info sheets or whatever your reports are, and maybe work with the company that Alex uses for his billing, or set up some sort of billing if it's a part-time person to try to recuperate some of those expenditures. Naturally, you know, if they're car accidents, they're smaller, but when you get into some of the structure fires and the other calls.
You're not gonna make a lot of money.
I don't think you
Fires
can bill
don't-
structure
Yeah, you can
fires.
only, you can only bill certain aspects of
Motor
emergency
vehicle
calls.
accidents and hazmat.
There's one way you're gonna be able to fund the fire service, and it's the one way that nobody wants to hear, and that's follow what Enfield did,
Well,
is have a fire tax.
But I'm just saying to subsidize some of it, I mean, you guys are out, when the state police don't wanna come and close down the road, you guys are sitting there for hours because they can't get a trooper to come. And
Absolutely
you
correct.
guys should be reimbursed for that. The troopers would get paid for it, but yet the troopers don't wanna come out at, 2:00 in the
I'll
morning.
wire down, your volunteers, and you wanna lose a volunteer quick, make them sit out there for 2 hours, waiting for Eversource to come out with a line and finally say, yup, the wire's down, I'll be back.
The bill's
2 hours
Eversource.
before.
The trooper doesn't get paid till Eversource says, yup, we're taking the scene over, and now the trooper gets paid, and my volunteer's been there 3 hours. And he's no longer my volunteer. I have people like that. Or 12 o'clock at night, my duty officer's babysitting a car accident because the Northman, because we don't have any police on. We have to wait for the Northman to finish up wherever he was at an accident to come all the way out to Stafford. Because we can't call for a tow truck or anything till the investigation.
We have a weekly duty officer schedule. We're gonna go to a daily duty officer schedule to ease the burden, because sometimes these guys get hammered.
Yeah, we're doing weekly.
If it's a week, you might be up once or twice a night, every night, for a 7-day period. So we're gonna change it to a daily
2
rotation.
weeks ago I was on, I did 15 calls. And most of them came in at 3 o'clock before I'm supposed to get up at 4 o'clock to go to Wisconsin.
It's not getting any easier.
I don't think the public realizes the service we get from the volunteers in this town.
All right, but I think if you wanna get to that, I mean, you've made the case to us many times, we've heard this story several years in a row, but I think if you want to put a plan in place, you gotta develop a plan, say exactly how many people are gonna be working in each department, what the cost is gonna be, and then you gotta, it's gotta be part of the presentation
I
during the
believe
budget year.
I believe I forwarded you that initial write-up that I did.
Right, but I mean, if you wanna present this as part of, not this year's budget, but some budget in the future, you've gotta get it to us like 6 months during the course of the budget
And hope
process.
for a big increase in the grand list that year, so.
Let's hope so.
One of the things that we'd be expecting
And
from the
not
Board of
residential,
Finance,
Commercial,
You
industrial.
see nothing but a bad building all night.
one of the things that we'd be expecting from the Board of Finance is a little direction on which way to go. Is it in a bond, in a capital item? Is it actually an operational cost that the town incurs? We'd need to know that so we could formulate a plan, and to include probably some financing with that. I think one of the things you asked us to do was give you what we needed. Now, we need from you, how best should we proceed from this point on? Should we do that as a capital item, and I'll use paid personnel as an example? Or is that something that the town would take on and out of a capital item?
Well, paid personnel is not a capital item.
It is
It's
not,
an
you're
ongoing
saying?
expense that you have every year. So it's a recurring expense, once you've agreed to do it, you know you're gonna have it every year, so.
And it's under payroll
basically-
expenses.
Right, so basically, you're looking at that as, you would be looking for increases in your 2 budgets
Right, not
to pay for that every year.
not taken out of the
That's
capital.
what we have to look at. We have lengthy discussions. Would it be up to the 2 fire departments, or do we throw the bad word out now and it becomes, that's part of consolidated, and we go out of this station and it's a town employee? It's gonna be very hard and not prosper for him to hire 2 guys, me to hire 2 guys. I pay more, I got better benefits, he does. We'll have people jumping ship constantly. It's gonna have to
And
be
you're gonna have
double dippers, and it needs to be one
I
organization.
think the town has to set,
Right.
the board of selectmen, we gotta set a committee involving the fire departments and everybody, everybody for a
Well, that-
program, because we have no plan at all. We've discussed this many times here. There's no basic plan for the town. We're working from day to day. And we're seeing this stuff come before us tonight. We're gonna have to sit down, we got road problems, we got building problems, and we got tax problems.
But
So,
Dick,
Well, I think that's
this is a
what
good
the-
example of what we
oh
have.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's just one
First of
little.
all, why don't we
get something
let
like this
this
for the
lady
school,
finish her
the town.
presentation?
Yeah, right, and this all has to come together and set a whole priority.
I
Why don't we let this lady finish her presentation?
We can certainly put together a plan for paid staff and bring it back forward, but we do need some direction as to consolidation, et cetera. We can bring forward to you whatever you want, and, we can take it out of the capital expenditures, we can bring it forward, but this basically is the equipment that's needed and the idea of the paid staff. And however you want us to go with that, we can get back together and do that. We don't need to put a commission together because that's what we were.
You have it, but
Right.
the town has to, the town has gotta
Right.
come up with a
Right.
plan and how this all comes together like a big puzzle.
Right.
Is it going to be a town employee situation? Is it gonna be?
Exactly.
I mean, Mike, just
We
my
have some
comment
ideas, we
on
can.
that, as far as setting another commission, I mean, I think it's the responsibility of the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, with the input from emergency services and all the other departments. I think it's our responsibility to sit down and come up with this plan. You know, the three of us, not farm it off to somebody else to say, come up with a plan. We're the three that are working on it, and we need to have more joint meetings and come up with, you know, this is how we're gonna reach these goals.
So we need a timeline. We've been
Yes.
talking about this for years.
Right, and
We
we
gotta
have
set
to
a
have-
timeline, set a date, this has gotta be done.
But I think
I
what
would like
Ed was
one, but
talking
I need
about and what Ed wants is something from the two fire chiefs as a pretty good idea of how many hours, what kind of personnel, that type of thing, what type of training, what type of, fire. We need this from you before we can even start talking. What exactly will be needed if we go to a paid fire department?
That's it. All of it.
So do we have any other questions on this?
The only other point
Nice job.
I would like to bring up is, we have this plan for you, and you give us some more great ideas, but we want you to absorb this, and just because this is a 10-year plan, like Bill said, we're looking for your input now. How do you wanna proceed, and how do you want the public, and how do you wanna buy into this? Do we look at, just because we have it laid out in what we thought was fair and even, and you know, you said, well, firehouse should be up here, I agree, but I'd rather have a new fire truck than a firehouse right now, because I have some other ideas that I can feed to you. You know, the purchase of this next truck and probably the next one, tankers, I'm thinking of actually downsizing. I think in some cases, we have too much fire apparatus, I see that as a cheap when I look at the scene.
That was a
I-
question I had when we're looking at all this and when we start consolidating this, what can we do?
With the addition of the two new pieces, if we could get the truck that I want this year, and I think 2 years after that, I want that tanker, if I don't get it this year for a grant, the lake station, I think you would see reduced to 2 trucks. That third truck, I would like to take out of there, which is the newest truck, and bring down here, cause that's an old truck, and we can sell it. Joey wants it, wanna retrofit it or whatever, or get rid of it. And so that would, I could eliminate one piece of apparatus. I could also get rid of my trailer that I have, cause I could fit it all on this new truck. So that's 2 vehicles I could get off, at least insurance rolls. And I feel would be adequate to still serve my area in the downtown district. That's just one chief's idea though.
In our corner of the world, we're talking about eliminating an engine and replacing it with a tanker just to increase capability. The other thought that has been thrown around the table was to take, because once we get rid of the out-of-service ladder truck, we have a bay. There is no such thing as a spare fire truck in the town of Stafford. He's talking about getting rid of one of his, and we have that 1989 that'll come offline, we'll have an engineer look at them, and whichever one is the best one, it would stay in service and ready to respond, but it would be a spare. He loses an engine uptown, he would take it and put it up there to maintain a capability.
Right now, we have no space.
Right, no
So we're
space,
trying
no
to create
space.
space and at the same time get rid of some iron.
The unfortunate thing about handing you a piece of paper is it doesn't relay all of the good discussions that we've had and all the ideas and the plans that could happen behind it, like decreasing maintenance costs and decreasing insurance and things like that. So we know you wanted the 10-year plan, and that's what we're presenting, but we're also thinking that after because we know it's not gonna be on this budget that's gonna be coming to vote, that perhaps it'd be a good idea for us to meet on this after the budget passes and talk about these different ideas and suggestions that came up to reduce some of the costs that we have right now, and like, you know, Chief Lucia was saying, reallocating equipment and things like that. So that would be a suggestion that I would offer, is that after the budget does pass, that we get together, the Emergency Services Commission gets together with the Board of Finance to present some of the, either change this around or come up with different ideas that were discussed.
Good. All for that.
That would be good.
Okay.
Excellent. Hopefully it passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Richard, did you have anything you wanted to add to the presentation tonight, or?
No, I think everybody did a good job.
Okay.
You know, I asked Natalie to come because I thought her presentation and the information just ties all the emergency services.
No, it does, and it gives us a good picture of, you know, what better in the future, but I think that, the chief's gotta figure out exactly what you're gonna want in terms of personnel, and get together and make a presentation.
I want volunteers, so I don't have to picture of actors. That's what I know.
Well, yeah, but you just said it's not working, so.
After we had this conversation back in around Christmas time, I believe, I did generate a document and it has a copy of it.
Okay.
It lays out a pretty comprehensive program.
All right,
I
Monday,
look
we're
forward to
gonna,
talking to you.
what's that? Okay, Monday, we're gonna have the, police chief, is that correct? Okay, is anybody else on for Monday, or,
We do the audit on Monday?
yeah, we got the audit, we're gonna make a decision on the audit.
Are we gonna make our recommendations Monday instead of tonight?
On the audit, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I think we decided, so
Alright.
we'll do that on Monday.
Perfect time to train stuff over here.
You have a recommendation, Lisa?
What's that?
Sorry,
I just wanted to, in terms of coming up with budget recommendations, I had told the school board last Monday that we would do it by the 8th, which is 2 weeks from tonight. They seem to think they wanted it sooner. Maybe starting Monday, we can start going through the revenue figures and see if we can come up with some answers. Maybe by the 6th or whatever, so. That's all right, everybody?
You said the 8th, they'll get it on the 8th.
That's right, yeah, what the heck? Well, they were complaining about being at school the next week, but I would figure I'd give them more time to work on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too, yeah. Okay. All right, so that's the plan on it. So anything else anybody's got? Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn? So moved. Second? Okay, adjourn, see you Monday.